The sand sings when it cools. Not loudly, never loudly, but in narrow threads of sound that braid through the night and vanish when I try to catch them. I lie on my back because I cannot yet trust my legs, and the desert moon exhales around me, dunes folding and unfolding as if the ground were a sleeping lung. Somewhere behind my eyes, a slow, methodical throb counts my refusal to pass into the quiet forever. The stars look indifferent, which is comforting. Indifference is reliable. The wreck of the skimmer still smolders a little way downslope. It ticks like brittle glass as the heat retreats, each crack a tiny confession. I would stand and salvage what I can, but the world insists on staying double. When I lift my head, night pivots and the dunes tilt in sympathy. My ears, the troublesome, elegant things that soldiers and sculptors pretend to admire, ache with a deep bruise. They keep trying to drink the horizon, and the horizon keeps pouring too much. Sound is heavier here than at home. Kyrian 7 holds noise the way certain metals hold a charge. I taste iron in echoes. If I were whole, I would love that. The carriers above knew this when they sent us down. You choose the ground that speaks a language your enemy barely hears. We were very certain yesterday. Today the sand hums a disinterested lullaby, and I am uncertain about everything, including where my left boot has gone. I inventory the situation because procedure is kinder than hope. One skimmer ruined. One pulse pistol lost when the console became red light and then not light. One spine convinced it is an argument I am losing. My implant, my clever, loyal interpreter, flickers under the skin at my temple, trying to translate the world into manageable concepts. It gives me temperature, wind vectors, distance to the edge of the ravine. It cannot tell me why the breeze smells like old citrus and memory. I pull myself to sitting. The night tilts again, but agrees, reluctantly, to stay attached to its sky. The twin suns are far below the horizon, and in their absence the planet becomes honest. The dunes whisper the same phrase over and over, "Not yet, not yet." When I close my eyes, I can separate the voices, the sand, the cooling hull, the skitter of small things with too many feet. Under all of it, faint and stubborn, a beat that is not mine. Human. I taste the word as sound first, then meaning. The cadence is off, as if the heart doesn't quite trust its own mathematics. Humans fascinate us the way unfinished songs do. Their rhythms wander. Their emotions arrive early to their own ceremonies and leave without cleaning up. In the training halls, we learn to chart them, to predict their crescendos, but prediction isn't comprehension. My ears catalog a dozen tiny adjustments in the wind, and I still cannot tell whether the beat approaches me or simply refuses to leave the world. I tell myself I do not care either way. I am a soldier of the Dominion, and tomorrow I am to rendezvous with my squad. We will form, we will move, we will do precisely what we practiced until the enemy surrenders or learns to make music the way we do. I tell myself this because my mouth knows how to shape those syllables even while my hands are quietly counting my breaths to prove I remain within the same body. When I try to stand, the sand pulls at me as if I owe it. I sway, place a palm on the skimmer's scorched hull, and a thin lilt climbs my bones, metal cooling, stress lines loosening. The smell of hot resin is accompanied by the small, ridiculous thought that I never liked this model and am relieved to be rid of it. I would laugh if my ribs weren't holding a committee about whether laughing is responsible behavior. The beat again, closer now. Humans do not move quietly. It is not their fault. They are not tuned for it. Our instructors said this with superiority. My mother said it with tenderness, as if to cherish a clumsy symphony for having tried. The implant attempts to resolve the sound into an outline. It superimposes a ghost on the dunes. Lean frame, careful stride, a heat signature at the edge of caution. I reach instinctively for the pistol that is not there. My hand learns its absence like a new word. I could call for the squad. Protocol exists for this. But the comms coil under my collarbone is cracked, and the last time I tried to transmit it answered with a scream pitched so high it peeled the stars thin as onion skin. A dignified retreat would be ideal. My legs vote against that plan. We compromise. I stay very still and pretend the desert is part of my uniform. The human crests the ridge like a particularly polite apparition. He pauses, seeing the wreck first, me second, then performs an expression that my implant labels surprise but my ears refine into concern threaded with guilt. He wears a battered environment suit and optimism that has seen better days. Around his neck hangs a device that purrs in gentle magnetics, toolkit, repair coils, maybe a sentimental trinket to make machinery behave. I have known engineers who speak lovingly to drones. Machines often reward flattery. "Hey," he says, raising both hands in the way species do when they wish to be large and harmless at once. His voice is the sound of a stone settling in shallow water. There may be a laugh hiding in it, or a cough. It is hard to tell with humans. You don't look like you're in love with your current situation. I consider telling him that my situation and I are in a complicated relationship, but sarcasm burns energy and I am low on fire. I tilt my head instead, the way our people show we are listening, and let my ears do their work. His heartbeat does not lie. It is jittery but clean, bravado playing cards with worry. No predatory edge, no sharp feast colors in the breath. He is afraid, which is sensible, and determined, which is less so. "Don't come closer," I say. It comes out softer than I intend. The desert takes a tax on volume. "My craft is unstable." "Your craft," he echoes, sounding charmed by the possessive, as if the wreck were a pet that might yet learn tricks. "Okay, staying here, very here." He crouches not too near, hands still visible, and looks over the ruin as if he might apologize to it on my behalf. "I'm Eli. I fix things that yell at me. Name a thing on this moon and it has probably yelled at me." "You fix sand," I ask before I can help it. The question surprises him into a short laugh that does interesting things to his heartbeat. "No, but I let it win arguments. That's close." He gestures vaguely to my temple. The implant hums a warning at being noticed. "You're bleeding, not badly, but, aesthetically. We do not measure wounds in aesthetics." I reach up and my fingers come away dark. The smell is sharp and familiar. "We measure them in whether the stars blur." "And do they?" "Yes," I admit, and then, because the honesty feels fragile and I would like to put something lighter over it, I add, "But they were smug before, so perhaps this is justice." He grins at that, a swift brightness that the desert does not know how to tax. My ears catch the small relief inside it. The wind shifts, bringing with it the wide breath of the ravine and the distant tremor of machinery far beyond the dunes. Somewhere a carrier turns in its sleep. Somewhere my squad steps into formation and waits for a voice that sounds like mine. Eli's gaze tracks the stars I can no longer trust. He studies me without the hunger of a soldier, without the calculation of a collector. He studies me like a problem that wants a gentle wrench and an apology. "If I leave you," he says carefully, "do you have people coming?" "I have people," I say, which is true. Whether they are coming is a different truth. "Right." He nods to himself as much as to me, as if agreeing with a private debate. "Then I'm going to do something inadvisable but humane. Please don't stab me while I'm being humane." "I have misplaced my knife," I say, and the desert, the wreck, even the implants suspend their noises for a beat, as if listening for whether humor will survive here. It does. Barely. He is true to his warning. He approaches as if the air itself were delicate porcelain, placing each step in the quiet between my breaths. Up close, I see the seams in his suit have been mended with two different threads, one metallic, one a color that has no business on functional clothing. The badge on his chest is a peeled sticker, KHERION Acoustics, Field Engineer. The name underneath is real, printed but softened by sand, Eli VANCE. The sticker hums faintly, even their ink carries current here. The rules of my people insist I should refuse his help. We do not accept debt from enemies. Sound binds, and a favor is a tuning fork you don't stop hearing. Yet the rules had nothing to say about a skimmer that forgets how to be a skimmer and a body that refuses to be upright. His hand hovers, then becomes gravity I allow. He helps me stand with the caution of someone lifting a sleeping animal that may wake and bite. "Lean on me," he says. "I've survived worse than your opinion." "My opinion is heavy," I say, but I lean. His suit smells faintly of machine oil and oranges that never ripened. He angles us around the wreck, scanning with a device he unspools from his wrist. A filamented arc blooms into the air like a spider web that has learned trigonometry. The web vibrates when the wind crosses it, translating pressure into luminous lines. He reads it as if it were a map or a confession. "Radiators won't blow," he murmurs. "Hull is sulking but stable. We should move before someone with less charming bedside manner arrives." "Someone like you," I say. "I am universally adored by inanimate objects. People are a separate firmware." We descend into the ravine, where the sand gives way to metal terraces, ancient, weathered plates half swallowed by dust. When my boots touch them, my implant hums in surprise. Frequencies travel faster here. The plates are a throat and the desert a patient word. Small pillars rise at intervals, pierced with flutes. Eli taps one. The pillar answers with a chord that tastes blue. "Resonance beds," he says. "Predominion. Whoever built them liked the desert to sing on command. Corporate wants them for wave guides, but the Dominion wants the corporate permits, and the council wants—" He stops, as if the rest of that sentence belongs to a different conversation. "Anyway, my shelters close." "Your shelter," I echo, charmed despite myself by the possessive. "Perhaps that is a human flaw. Everything becomes yours if you have survived near it long enough." We pass beneath an overhang where the plates have folded like origami forgotten by a giant. Under the shelf, he has carved a small room from air and patient effort. A portable membrane tent anchored into the metal with humming pins. A table that is mostly tools pretending to be a table. 2 crates stenciled with KHERION acoustics. And a kettle that looks ashamed of how domestic it is. The sound in here is different. Softer. He has shaped the space to trap the worst of the winds and keep voices from traveling. He helps me sit on a crate and moves through the small place with the ritual of those who live alone. Everything has a choreography, and he keeps to it so the room remembers him. He pours water and adds a packet whose smell is warm and medicinal. He offers it to me with the respectful distance one offers a wild thing its first taste of salt. "You're not in chains," I say, surprising us both with the thought. "The corporation does not keep you under ward. They tried. I learned locks the way some people learn lullabies." He glances up, expression a quick flicker. "You don't sound like someone who'd expect chains." "Everyone expects chains. They just disagree about whose wrists." He winces as if I have identified an old injury. He kneels, studies the bruised crescent around my implant. His fingers hover, not touching. Human hands are loud, even when still they hum with intention. "May I?" "You may," I say, and the permission feels like placing an instrument into another's hands. He unpacks a case of delicate rods and threads them into a ring that sits lightly against my temple. The ring emits a tone so fine it is almost a texture. My implant responds, suspicious at first, then reluctantly cooperative, as he tunes it like a misbehaving instrument. The pain steps back. The stars take on edges again, less smug. "You're running a translator compressor, right?" he says. "Takes the world's noise and arranges it in folders your brain likes." It does not arrange, it clarifies. Clarify is what engineers call arrange when they're in polite company. He adjusts a dial. There's a limiter in here. It squashes peaks when emotions get too loud. It protects soldiers from being flooded. I keep my voice flat. My mother's hands flash in memory, binding my ears in braided cloth when I was small, teaching me to choose which sounds to wear that day. We do not have a word for flooded that isn't also a word for drowned. "Then let's call it weather," he says. "Some storms you walk through, some you build a roof for." The ring vibrates once, decisive, and releases me. He sits back on his heels, studying my face as if waiting for a verdict he will accept even if he dislikes it. The room's quiet is a fabric I can stand beneath without flinching. The kettle clicks, satisfied with its work. "Better?" he asks. "You are less ugly," I say, and he grins, which is how humans say I forgive you for calling me ugly. A soft chime ripples through the ravine. Not metal, not wind. The kind of sound made by rules. My implant decodes the carrier's distant ping, a grid sweep. The Dominion is awake, and the grid doesn't care that I am wrapped in a stranger's quiet. He hears none of it. "You went somewhere," he says, watching my focus flick like a startled bird. "Somewhere is coming here," I answer. "My people. They will be displeased to find me draped over a human-s furniture." "Technically that's corporate property," he says, then frowns. "That was a joke. I apologize for the category. Keep the joke. I am low on supplies." My ears drink the grid's geometry. The sweep is methodical, patient, like water counting stones. "You should let me go. If you are seen with me, it will become complicated." "I have a doctorate in complicated," he says, "and a minor in regret. Help me choose which one to practice today. If they take you, there will be no choice left to practice." He rests his elbows on his knees, thinking. In the tense membrane, the wind draws brief snakes of light. He reaches to the table, picks up a small sphere with slits. When he twists it, the sphere sings. Not melody, a cancellation. It spills an absence into the air. The grid's ping arrives at the mouth of the shelter, sniffs and slides past, failing to take purchase. "Phase pet," he says. "A little illegal, don't tell the room." "You hide in holes you built," I say, like a sand creature, like a repairman who knows when the machine will throw a tantrum. His gaze returns to my implant. "You know they teach us to listen too, not like you do. In training they put us near engines and tell us to hear the bearing asking for mercy. And do you?" "Sometimes I fake it. Sometimes the engine fakes it. We meet in the middle and call it maintenance." He stands and offers his hand again. "You can stay until the grid passes, or you can stab me with the knife you don't have and run. I'll respect either choice in the morning when I am less stupid." I do not take his hand. I take the space between us and step into it, which my people consider more intimate. He does not flinch. Outside, the grid lattice ticks through its pattern. It will return. Rules always do. Inside, the kettle's steam paints the air with the ghost of fruit. Eli pours a cup and sets it near me without asking, as if offering a note I may sing if I wish. "Why are you here?" I ask, "besides earning a degree in complicated?" He considers, then shrugs, but the shrug is an honest one, not a shield. "Because the company thinks these plates will make us rich, and the Dominion thinks the company thinking that makes them dangerous, and I think sounds that can move mountains should probably be listened to before being bought." He rubs at his jaw, and because I like things that yell at me less after, and people yell different, he looks at me steadily. I am not very good at making them yell less. I'm trying. On a good day I can talk a machine out of dying. On a bad day a person decides without me. The grid's echo fades. Another farther out answers. My squad is not yet at the ravine. But they will trace my signal eventually unless I become signal-less. Eli's phase device purrs, hungry to be asked to do more than it was built for. "I will leave before dawn," I say. "It is simpler to be found alone." "Simple is suspicious," he says lightly, "but the worry is not light. If you must go, take the quiet with you." He slides the sphere toward me. "A gift." "We do not accept," I begin, and he interrupts with a small smile. "From enemies," he finishes. "Then consider me a loud machine." The sphere vibrates in my palm, a heartbeat that is not human and not mine. A note perfectly ordinary releases in my head, debt. Rules begin to thread their net. I close my fingers anyway. The net hums. The room listens. Somewhere above, a carrier turns again, and the plates beneath us answer with a low consent. He watches the choice settle over me. He does not make it easier by speaking. "Good, that is a kind power. When they come," I say, "they will try to make you smaller with their rules." I am very good at being exactly my size, he says. It annoys supervisors. I let myself laugh carefully. The room accepts it. The kettle clicks once more, polite as a bell. We sit in that manageable weather, two instruments from different orchestras tuning to the same unprinted note, while the night arranges itself into the shape of consequences. The storm begins before the sun's rise, not of wind or dust, of sound. It starts as a tremor beneath the plates, then climbs upward through the ravine until the entire desert hums in a frequency my bones mistake for memory. I wake already listening. The implant flares in self-defense dampening resonance, but it's too late. The world is awake, and it is singing about me. Eli stirs beside the work table, half tangled in his blanket and wires. He sits up, squinting. That normal, because if it's a dawn chorus, your planet needs voice lessons. It is not my planet, I answer. The words taste like static. And this is not song, it's a scan. I step outside the shelter. The air quivers with invisible pressure lines, concentric ripples in the dust. Each pulse tastes of command, structured, deliberate, dominion grade. My people are broadcasting an identification sweep through the metal strata, using neural resonance. Anything bearing dominion tech, implants armor, implants embedded in bone, will echo back a signature. I should be comforted. I feel hunted instead. Eli follows, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Resonance, huh? Like sonar for people with good hair. Like sonar for guilt. I crouch, pressing my palm to the cold plate. They will find me. He kneels beside me, scanning the pulses on his wrist display. Could block it, maybe. If I can mimic your implant's pattern and feed back white noise. That would require knowledge of Dominion neurocode. He grins the way humans grin when they are about to do something catastrophic. Good thing curiosity hasn't killed me yet. You have remarkable faith in your continued existence. Statistically unfounded, but emotionally vital. I would have smiled if the hum were not growing sharper. The frequency digs into the part of my mind reserved for obedience. Orders are hidden in the tone. Identify, report, return. My pulse aligns without permission. The Dominion does not need to see me. It can make me come home by tuning my will. I bite the inside of my cheek until blood cuts through the sound. Stop it, I whisper to the air that is also my past. I am not yours. Eli is already wiring the table, connecting the phase sphere to his wrist coil. His hands move with the focus of someone refusing to think about what happens if he fails. You said it's sound-based, he mutters. So we jam it with counter-resonance. Not complicated, just suicidal. I have heard your songs, I say. Suicidal seems to be your native rhythm. He shoots me a quick look, halfway between amusement and terror. Then we're in harmony. The plates begin to glow faintly, thin veins of blue fire chasing one another through the cracks. The air thickens. My implant surges, desperate to synchronize. It will betray me with a single pulse if I let it. I drop to my knees, digging into the control seam at my temple. The skin there burns. Eli catches my wrist. Wait, don't tear it out. I need its code intact. It wants to obey, I hiss. It will answer before you finish wiring your toy. Then give me 30 seconds of stubborn. 30 seconds. My people train us to endure pain for hours, silence for days. But resisting the call of resonance is different. It's like holding your breath while your lungs remember drowning. My ears fold back instinctively, filtering every pitch into desperate fragments. I count the beats of his pulse instead of my own. It's uneven, improvisational, human. It keeps me here. Then the world flips. The hum crashes inward and everything shatters into light and tone. I see them, my squad, not with eyes, through the resonance. Their neural patterns imprint across the frequencies like constellations. Captain Vorn's cold precision, the medic's quiet sorrow, they're close. And they know I am alive. A voice pierces the static carol of the Dominion. Respond. My body tries to stand. Eli slams a button and the phase sphere screams. The air folds around us like liquid glass. For a moment the sound disappears entirely as if existence itself has muted. Then a new tone replaces it, Eli's creation, rough, imperfect, human-made chaos. The resonance falters. My squad's signal wavers, blurs, dissolves. The silence that follows is absolute. My implant dims, confused. The blue veins across the ground fade. Eli collapses backward, panting. If anyone asks, tell them I'm a genius. They will not ask, I say. They will attack. He grins weakly. Good thing I work well under hostility. I sit beside him. The residual static inside my head tastes strange, like two frequencies have fused. Human noise tangled with Dominion precision. My implant should reject it, but instead it hums softly as if curious. Your counterwave, I say. It infected the neural channel, my implant's adapting to it. Adapting how? I close my eyes. The air vibrates differently now. Every sound carries a faint echo of Eli's heartbeat woven into its structure. I hear more, not just pitch or emotion, memory. Define memory, he says carefully. I look at him, and for an instant his laughter from an hour ago plays faintly in my ear, though he makes no sound now. It records traces of moments. The resonance merged us briefly. Our frequencies aligned. Congratulations, he says, managing a crooked smile. We just invented telepathic tinnitus. I should be alarmed, but the humor steadies me. The Dominion would classify this as contamination. To me, it feels like translation. A bridge where no bridge should exist. Then I hear something else. A faint echo, not from Eli, but from the direction of the horizon. Another signal. The Dominion scan has changed pitch. They've detected interference and marked it as hostile technology. They will not come to rescue, they will come to cleanse. They are recalibrating, I whisper. They believe you are a threat. Me, I'm charming. Charm is not a recognized form of immunity. He starts packing his tools with brisk efficiency. Then we move. I know a dead zone near the ridge. No signal penetration. I hesitate, every instinct screaming that this alliance cannot exist. Dominion logic dictates separation, hierarchy, purity of frequency. But my ears still ring with his pulse, and logic has begun to sound like fear. He pauses when I don't follow. Carol, I should go to them, I say quietly. I could explain. Tell them you were not an accomplice. Yeah, he says dryly, because interstellar armies are famous for listening to explanations. He's right, but the choice claws at me. My people are in those signals, my history, my mother's voice teaching me to braid silence into strength. To abandon them is treason. To stay with him is worse. I cannot serve two harmonies, I whisper. Eli looks at me for a long moment, then says softly, then maybe it's time you write your own. The suns edge above the dunes, twin golds splitting the sky. Their light hits the metal plates, turning the ravine into a corridor of mirrors. In their reflection I see two figures, one human, one alien, standing in the seam between worlds, both vibrating to a new and dangerous note. And for the first time in my life, I do not silence it. The ridge rises like a blade buried halfway into the horizon. The twin suns burn low behind us, staining the air with bronze and violet, colors too contradictory to exist anywhere sane. Every step on the metallic sand rings faintly beneath my boots. Each echo is a reminder that sound here is never truly gone. It just waits for the right ear to listen again. Eli walks ahead, scanning the slope with his wrist coil. The phase sphere dangles from his belt, its slits glowing with lazy rhythm, like a heartbeat that has decided to improvise. We move in silence that isn't silence at all. The desert hums, my implant whispers corrections I ignore, and somewhere above, the Dominion's carriers purr like distant thunderclouds made of law. You're quiet, Eli says finally, glancing back, which I assume means either profound thinking or plotting my demise. Both require the same concentration. He smirks, but it's thin. His humor lately feels like a rope bridge over something deep. We reach the plateau. It's covered in crystalline growths that rise from the metal like frozen waves. When the wind passes through them, They emit tones so pure they almost taste sweet. The Dominion calls these resonant tombs, remnants of cities that once turned sound into power, until the power decided it preferred to sing without masters. Eli kneels beside one of the spires. Looks like they left the lights on. Do not touch it, I say, sharper than intended. It remembers violence. He raises both hands in mock surrender. Noted. No fondling alien tombs before breakfast. I try not to smile, but he hears it in my tone anyway. The implant hums uneasily, still carrying traces of our merged resonance from before. I can hear faint shadows of his thoughts when his emotions spike. Curiosity tastes like copper, worry like cold air. When he jokes, there's an undercurrent of fear humming beneath it, a note he doesn't know he's playing. "Why are you helping me, Eli Vance?" I ask. He shrugs. "Because it's either that or go back to repairing engines for a company that pays me in food cubes and existential dread. Also, I like you." That last reason is not strategic. Neither is being alive most days. The words land heavier than he means. The wind swells, the crystalline spires harmonize, and I feel the Dominion's pulse echo faintly through them. They are near again. My squad, my captain. Their resonance feels like home and threat, warmth and blade. "They are here," I whisper. Eli's hand goes to his coil. "Then we should—" "No," I say. "Running will confirm our guilt." His brow lifts. "And staying will confirm our mortality." I kneel, pressing my palms to the metal surface. Beneath the dust, I can feel the Dominion's signal crawling through the buried conduits like a living nerve. They are triangulating my implant's frequency. They believe I am captured. "Well," he says lightly, "that's half true." I look at him. "If they reach us, they will destroy you first. Good to know I'm a priority." "Eli." My voice cracks on his name, the first sound I've failed to control since I was a child. "I can stop this if I resynchronize my implant. I can call them off." He studies me. "And then what? You go home, pretend none of this happened." "Yes." The word feels mechanical. "I return, you live. And you?" "I serve." He exhales. That sounds suspiciously like not living. My hands tremble. The crystal beneath me responds to the motion, rippling with a low tone that mirrors the beating of my heart. For a moment it feels like the world itself is arguing against me. The Dominion's signal sharpens, a command urgent now. "Respond." "Identify, obey." My implant flares. I clutch my temple. Eli steps forward, reaching for the phase sphere. I can block it again. "Do not," I manage. "If they detect interference, they will send drones." "Better drones than—" A burst of sound cuts him off. The spires shatter upward, flinging shards of luminous crystal into the air. Out of the dust stride two Dominion soldiers, armor gleaming with pale resonance light. They are my squad mates, Veen and Lyra. I know them by the shape of their frequencies even before I see their faces. Lyra's voice carries the sharpness of command. "Carol of the Dominion, stand down." I do not move. The implant already feeds them my vitals, my position, my guilt. Veen's gaze flicks to Eli. "A human engineer, containment subject. Has he harmed you?" Eli opens his mouth, because of course he would, but I speak first. "He has not." "He saved me." Lyra's eyes narrow. "Then you are compromised." She lifts her weapon, and Eli, in a gesture of breathtaking foolishness, steps between us. "She's not your prisoner, and she doesn't need saving from me." Lyra's aim does not waver. "Step aside, human." He does. "See, that's the problem with your people. You give orders like they come pre-packaged with obedience." Veen raises a hand. "Lyra, wait." His eyes flicker toward me, searching. "Carol, the council has issued a command. You are to return immediately. The human will be evaluated." Evaluated. I know what that means. Dissection masked as diplomacy. The Dominion has no patience for ambiguity. Eli's voice tightens. "You said they'd destroy me first. Guess I should start looking offended." I look at my former comrades, at the soldiers who once synchronized breath with mine in battle. I hear the Dominion's voice behind theirs, a chorus of control woven from 1,000 obedient frequencies. And beneath it all, a smaller, rougher sound, the echo of Eli's heart, still beating against reason. "I will return," I tell Lyra quietly, "but not under your chain." She frowns. "You cannot choose your chain, Carol." Eli mutters, "That's a hell of a recruitment slogan." Lyra fires. The bolt hits the ground beside him, searing the air. The crystals around us shatter, filling the plateau with blinding light. I act before I can think. My implant surges, amplifying the resonance through the metal floor. A shockwave of sound bursts outward, hurling Lyra and Veen backward. The spires scream like an orchestra in pain. When the noise fades, Eli is staring at me in disbelief. "You could have killed them." "I did not. On purpose." "Unclear," I admit. A bitter laugh escapes him. "Well, that's comforting." The soldiers lie unconscious, their armor flickering with broken light. The Dominion's signal wails in my head, demanding explanation, demanding order. I cut the channel with a single thought. The silence that follows is unbearable and holy. Eli looks at the fallen soldiers, then at me. "Now what?" "I have committed treason," I say softly. He exhales, half a laugh, half disbelief. "Welcome to the club." The wind howls across the plateau, carrying the smell of ozone and scorched glass. The crystalline remains vibrate softly, as if whispering about what we've done. The suns rise higher, washing the metallic horizon in gold and sorrow. "I cannot return," I whisper. "Then don't," he says. "Stay loud." It is a simple sentence. It sounds like a revolution. The Dominion's carriers growl above the clouds, circling like metallic gods uncertain whether to strike. I look at Eli, this fragile, absurd human engineer, and realize that for the first time, the sound of my own heartbeat no longer feels like a cage. It feels like a choice. The Dominion's ships arrive at dusk, filling the upper atmosphere with cold auroras. Their hulls are silver veined with blue, luminous veins pulsing to an internal rhythm, an empire breathing. I can feel their presence even through the ground. The plates beneath my boots tremble as if the planet itself is holding its breath. Eli and I hide beneath the skeleton of a ruined comms tower. It hums faintly with static ghosts, whispering fragments of long-dead transmissions. The air smells of ozone and fear. "They'll sweep the area within minutes," I say. "Your phase sphere will not mask us twice." "Then I'll invent a second one," he mutters, tightening a wire with his teeth. "Improvisation is humanity's primary survival skill. Your survival rate is unconvincing." "True, but we're statistically adorable." Despite everything, I almost laugh. Humor is a rebellion against inevitability, and rebellion tastes better shared. But the laugh dies when I see the signal climbing the tower, an encoded light sequence, unmistakably Dominion. Someone is transmitting from here, someone alive. "We're not alone," I whisper. Eli freezes. "Friend or foe?" I listen. The tones beneath the flicker carry patterns only a trained ear can translate. It's Dominion command code, but distorted, irregular, as if sung by a throat unsure of loyalty. "It's Veen," I say, heart tightening. "He survived. Good news." "No," I answer softly. "He's calling for me." Eli's jaw tightens. Of course he is. I move before he can stop me, scaling the wreck's framework. The metal is sharp, cold, singing faintly against my palms. Veen stands at the top, half his armor shattered, one eye glowing faintly from an exposed augment. He looks less like a soldier now, more like something remembering how to be human. "Carol," he says, his voice echoing through the tower's frame, "you've made a ruin sing. Even for you, that's ambitious." "Veen," I breathe, "you should not have followed." "I followed the noise," he says with a weary smile, "and the council's orders. They think you've defected." "They are correct," I reply, surprising even myself. He tilts his head, studying me. "You always did skip the polite denials." "The council will purge everything connected to me," I say. "They will silence this world." "I know," he sighs. "That's why I came to warn you and to make sure it happens cleanly." I freeze. "You mean to kill me?" "No," he says almost gently. "I mean to bring you home. Dead if you insist on irony." Eli's voice echoes from below. I'm getting some real mixed signals up there. Veen's gaze slides downward. The human, the contaminant. He saved me. He infected you. His hand flickers toward his weapon. My implant screams in my skull, preemptive, useless warning. I draw my pulse knife. The hum of its edge harmonizes with the tower's vibration. Don't, I whisper. You won't survive the fight. Neither will you. He lunges. The tower rings like a bell as our blades collide, light and sound merging into chaos. The air itself fractures into colors I've never seen. He moves with soldier's precision. I move with desperation. Our strikes become music, violent and mournful. Below, Eli yells something I cannot hear over the ringing metal. Sparks bloom between our weapons, and for an instant Veen's face softens. I didn't want this, he murmurs. Then stop. I can't. You taught me that loyalty is a note that never fades. He faints, then strikes low. Pain blooms across my ribs. I stagger, the knife slipping from my fingers. His blade rests against my throat. Forgive me, he whispers. The tower shudders. A flare of orange light erupts from below Eli's doing. The phase sphere, overloaded, detonates in a shockwave of distorted silence. The sound vanishes from the world. The hum, the wind, the Dominion's distant pulse, all gone. Veen's weapon flickers out. The two of us freeze in the vacuum of sound. I see his mouth move but hear nothing. Then, like a string snapping, the silence collapses back into a scream. The tower splits. We fall through a rain of molten steel. Eli catches me, half by instinct, half by luck. The impact knocks the air from both of us. Next time, he gasps, maybe let diplomacy go first. I stare at the wreckage. Veen lies motionless amid the burning shards, his eyes open but empty of light. The transmission beacon still blinks weakly, sending our position into the sky. They know where we are, I say. Perfect, Eli mutters. I was worried today might lack suspense. The ground trembles. Above, the Dominion's carriers shift formation. One of them lowers its core array, a beam of pale light stretching down like divine judgment. They're charging an erasure field, I say. It will cleanse the entire sector, and us with it. He looks at me, sweat streaking through the dust on his face. You can stop it, right? That implant of yours, can you talk to their system? I can, I admit, but they will hear me, and if I connect, there will be no return. Meaning, my mind will merge with the Dominion's lattice. They will take everything I am to confirm the field's cancellation. Eli hesitates. So the good news is you save the world. The bad news, I cease to exist as myself. Yeah, classic hero contract. I stare at the glowing beam. My people's technology hums in my blood, calling me home even now. Part of me wants to answer, to surrender to the harmony, to dissolve into something larger than guilt or grief. But then Eli's hand finds mine. His pulse is a flawed rhythm, human and real. I hear the faint echo of his heartbeat inside my mind, our accidental bond still alive, faint but insistent. You said we make our own harmony, he whispers. Don't let them rewrite yours. The sky brightens. The erasure beam ignites. I close my eyes, hearing both the Dominion's perfect chorus and Eli's imperfect heartbeat. And somewhere between them, a third sound begins to rise. Something wild. Something mine. I reach into the lattice. The connection surges like lightning through my skull. My body becomes vibration, my mind a flare of sound. I feel the Dominion's network recoil, confused by the chaos of humanity now tangled within me. I feed it noise, laughter, defiance. The beam flickers. Eli grips me tighter, shouting words I cannot hear over the roar of creation and collapse. The light fractures. The carriers above stagger out of formation. For a single, brilliant moment, the whole world sings wrong, and it is beautiful. The sky took too long to stop burning. After the beam fractured, after the Dominion's lattice recoiled from the noise I injected, the clouds above Kyrian 7 remained lit with the remnants of severed control. Cords of fractured light crisscrossed the sky like veins in broken glass, glowing and twitching with the echoes of a severed mind. I had touched their heart. No, I had resonated through it, and the consequences hadn't finished falling yet. My body ached with an ache that didn't belong to muscles or bone. It was the ache of identity stretched across too many frequencies, a dissonant chord trembling inside my skull. I felt hollow and vast, like a bell after the strike. I could still feel them, the Dominion lattice, though dim now like stars behind clouds. Their last signal still rang in the back of my skull, corrupted. Reclassify. Subject is no longer Carol. "Hey," Eli said softly, crouching in front of me. His voice, his very sound felt like something solid, something warm and blunt and entirely unlike the perfect symmetry of the Dominion. "Still in there?" "I think," I whispered. "But I don't know who's thinking." He studied me, his face split between concern and disbelief. "You did it. You shut them down. You broke the beam. For now." My implant sparked gently beneath my skin, flickering between modes like a singer forgetting her next line. "I used their channel to scream, but it won't take them long to regroup." Still, that was either heroic or wildly irresponsible, possibly both. I managed the ghost of a smile. Human behavior appears to be contagious. We stood on the rim of a crater now, shallow, wide, lined with scorched metal and glassified sand. The fractured transmission tower lay in pieces behind us. Veen's body was gone. Retrieved or vaporized, I couldn't say. The sky above writhed with atmospheric interference, painting strange reflections into the metallic landscape below. Eli picked up the still-humming remains of the phase sphere. "So, what's next, rebel queen of static?" I turned away, unsure how to answer. The Dominion would return, had to return. They'd lost control of one of their warrior singers, and worse, that singer had infected their resonance with alien dissonance. I wasn't just a threat now. I was unclean. And yet something inside me had changed. When I closed my eyes, I no longer heard only the lattice. I heard possibilities. "I have one chance," I said slowly. "I could send one more signal, this time not to the fleet but to the high conduit. The core sounds important. It is the oldest node of our resonance structure, a place where all frequencies pass eventually. If I can reach it, I can rewrite my classification. Not just hide from them, change what I am to them." He blinked. "You mean lie to your entire species' neural consciousness?" "Not lie." I looked at him. "Redefine. Great, no pressure." I retrieved the damaged transmission panel from the wreckage of the tower. My fingers worked instinctively, adjusting tuning nodes, resetting the phase locks. But the harmony was off. My implant wavered as I tried to interface. The bond with the Dominion was degraded. I needed a bridge. Eli frowned, watching me work. "Wait, if you can't connect directly, then what if you used me?" I stopped. "Your neural pattern is incompatible. You'd burn." "I've been electrocuted 3 times this month, 4th time's the charm." "You are not a conductor, Eli, you're chaos." "Exactly." He pointed at the resonance coils. "They're listening for you, but they're not listening for me. What if your message goes through my signature first, a kind of musical disguise? You sneak past their filters wearing my emotional jacket." The idea was absurd, reckless, dangerous. It was also possible. I linked the wires, forming a resonance loop between my implant and his coil. A feedback system that would encode the message through his emotional spectrum. Unfiltered, unpredictable. "If this works," I warned, "they'll see a version of me that includes you. Hope they like sarcasm and unresolved guilt." I met his gaze. "This could kill you." "Yeah," he said, tightening a clamp, "but think how awkward it'd be if I didn't help and then had to tell people I stood there while you got re-erased by space fascists. I do not understand your species. You're not supposed to, that's why we're interesting." I triggered the resonance bridge. Light poured from the panel in a low, golden pulse. My implant engaged violently, syncing with Eli's pulse, his memories, his emotions. I heard him. Not just his voice, but his childhood laughter, his fear of being forgotten, the way he once hummed to a broken machine just to keep it company. All of it funneled through me into the Dominion's frequency. My identity broadcast laced itself through the signal: Carol, alive, reclassified, autonomous harmony, not threat, not enemy. Pain flared behind my eyes. My heartbeat became Eli's. My memories blurred, twisting into hybrid echoes. For a moment I saw myself through him, strange, brilliant, impossible. Someone worth saving, someone he had risked everything to follow. Then the connection ruptured. The transmission panel burst, sparks hissing into the sand. Eli collapsed to one knee, coughing, his face pale and damp with effort. I staggered beside him, the implant flickering dangerously, barely holding form. "Did it?" he gasped. "Did they hear you?" "I don't know," I whispered, "but they felt me." The air shifted. Above us the Dominion fleet, so recently aligned in attack formation, paused, not scattered, not attacking, listening. Then, one by one, the ships turned. No signal, no confirmation, just a silent pivot toward the stars, leaving the sky behind them cleaner and quieter. Eli blinked up at them. "So we win?" "No," I said slowly. "We confused them." He laughed once painfully. "Close enough." The suns dipped lower. The wind carried the smell of scorched circuits and blooming metal flowers. Around us the desert exhaled, and inside me something silent began to sing. The sky was quiet. The auroras that had torn across Kyrian 7 horizon in fractured pulses now shimmered softly, weaving gentle arcs of gold and violet. The metallic dunes beneath my boots reflected the light in soft, distorted patterns, like a memory of chaos folded into order. I breathed, and the air carried traces of burnt circuitry and resonant metal, a scent that had become familiar, comforting even after so much destruction. Eli stood beside me, hands deep in pockets, leaning against the remains of the ruined comms tower. The phase sphere, now inert, rested at his feet like a sleeping animal. He looked at me with an expression that was a mix of pride and disbelief, a human face trying to make sense of impossible events. "You survived," he said quietly, "and somehow so did the planet." "I think," I replied, letting the words trail into the hum of the desert. My implant pulsed gently beneath my skin, no longer screaming or flickering. It had learned something from the bridge I had created: adaptation, autonomy, a voice of its own. I realized that part of me had stayed alive because I had shared it, not just with Eli but with the lattice, with the world. We walked slowly toward the edge of the plateau. The crystalline spires, once shattering under our frantic battle, had begun to resonate faintly with the remaining frequencies of the planet. Each step I took seemed to echo in harmony with the desert itself, as if Kyrian 7 approved of our survival. The sounds were subtle, almost musical, and I listened, savoring the quiet wonder of it. Eli glanced at me. "You're quiet." "I am listening," I said, "not just to the planet, to myself." He raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous activity, that." "I survived worse," I replied, allowing the smallest of smirks. Humor had returned, though fragile after all the tension. It was a thread tying me back to the life I had nearly lost. We stopped at a ridge overlooking the metallic expanse. The scattered remnants of the Dominion fleet glimmered faintly far above, their signals now inactive, the ships withdrawn. My people would not follow today. Perhaps not tomorrow, perhaps never. And yet the world seemed alive in a way it had not before. The fusion of sound, light, and thought, the energy of consciousness itself, hung visibly in the air, shimmering over sand and metal like a living aurora. I turned to Eli. "I should go home." He frowned. "To the human authorities or the corporate overlords?" "Neither," I said. "To somewhere I can listen without being ordered, to somewhere I can choose my own frequencies." He nodded, understanding more than he probably realized. "You could disappear. Nobody would stop you." "Yes," I said, and then quieter, "but I will not entirely." I reached into the sand and pulled up a shard of crystal, its edges still glowing faintly from the resonance of our battle. I held it between us. "This world remembers. So I will stay to watch, to learn, to guard, as a witness, not a soldier." Eli smirked. "Witness. Nice title. Also, I think it comes with hazard pay." I laughed, a soft sound that mingled with the whispering desert. It was absurd and yet necessary. Humor, like light or sound, could still exist in places that had almost forgotten it. We walked down from the ridge together, leaving behind the scarred plateau. My body ached, my mind still buzzed with traces of the Resonance Bridge, but I felt whole. The experiences had changed me. I was no longer just Carol of the Dominion. I was Carol, harmonizer, survivor, bridge between worlds. I had seen the extremes of loyalty, fear, and compassion. I had made impossible choices and lived with them. At the edge of a valley, Eli paused. "Do you ever think you'll go back to the Dominion?" I shook my head. "No. I'll listen to them perhaps, but on my own terms. And maybe I'll teach them something they didn't expect. That power is not control. That listening is a strength." He smiled, oddly solemn for once. "I'd like to hear that lecture." We moved on, leaving a trail of faintly resonant footprints that hummed briefly with each step. The wind carried them, scattering the notes across dunes and metal. Somewhere in the distance, the planet's natural hum began to swell, blending with the fading traces of human and Dominion frequencies. It was as if the world itself exhaled, acknowledging the impossible alliance that had endured. When the suns finally set, painting the horizon in streaks of violet and copper, I paused to watch. My hands traced the air lightly, fingers brushing invisible threads of sound, light, and energy. I could feel everything at once: the desert, the remnants of the fleet, Eli's pulse nearby, and my own heartbeat merging with the planet's rhythm. "Do you ever get tired of saving worlds?" Eli asked softly. "Not when they teach me something new about myself," I replied, and I realized I meant it. We sat there in quiet companionship as the first stars began to shimmer. The desert's subtle hum mingled with the resonance lingering in the air, and I understood that survival was not merely living. It was being present, bearing witness, and shaping one's own frequency amid chaos. Eli reached out and nudged my shoulder. "So, dinner, or are we improvising our next apocalypse?" I laughed, truly freely this time. "Dinner, and then we'll consider the apocalypse optional." The sky darkened fully, the auroras fading into gentle swirls. Crystals glimmered faintly around us, keeping the echoes of our journey alive. I closed my eyes, letting the sound, light, and wind fold around me, carrying the memory of what had been lost and what had been found. Somewhere in the distance, a faint, human-made hum threaded through the desert, and I smiled. Not everything had to belong to the Dominion. Not everything had to be perfect. But everything could resonate in its own flawed, extraordinary way. And for the first time in a long while, I felt that I belonged, not to a command, a fleet, or a mission, but to the music of the world itself.